So it seems that science has finally discovered the true nature of our universe.
Perhaps so.
The universe started with a Big Bang some 13.8 billion years ago, from a point smaller than the size of an atom. It appeared from nothingness, and its speed of expansion is accelerating so that in billions of years' time the galaxies surrounding us will have disappeared from view. The surrounding sky will be simply darkness.
Maybe, but we have to be careful with measurements. If we were aliens who had never encountered a human 2-year-old child before, we could mistakenly predict that at his current rate of growth, in 500 years' time he would be 150 meters tall.
You have a point there.
And if our universe is part of a multiverse, does it really arise from nothing? Our universe may just be a soap bubble of pie appearing upon the endless ocean of the multiverse, and rather than endlessly expanding, there may be all kinds of pie soap bubble limitations which eventually cause the universe to contract back to the singularity, or even to simply pop like a bubble.
Okay, I see that angle is possible.
And you will also be aware that when science has investigated the matter of our cosmos deeply, it has discovered that matter is simply a quantum image, that is light plus information, floating within unknown realms called dark matter and dark energy. It seems then that science has simply returned to the ancient scene described by Plato in his cave theory, that of a universe which is simply reflections of a hidden light thrown as shadows upon the walls of a cosmic cavern.
I am not so sure about that. The realms of dark matter and dark energy are strange for sure. We know that they comprise more than 95% of the universe, and that they are not made from the normal protons and neutrons of matter, so they are called non-baryonic. They are, however, probably related to the tapestries of space-time gravity, and their nature will soon be revealed. The Hadron Collider is currently searching for the Higgs boson, the God particle, which the scientists propose is somehow connected to the missing matter of the universe.
So science thinks it has solved the nature of the universe, yet it has lost more than 95% of the universe into some strange realms which it calls dark matter and dark energy. These are, however, simply labels like the historical term terra nullius, or unknown lands upon the ancient maps. The scientists could also use the mystics' term of the breath of dragons, and this would also be valid, would it not?
Well, yes, maybe, but
science also knows almost nothing of the nature of consciousness, which also has a non-baryonic aspect. Is it possible then that these two non-baryonic aspects of dark matter energy and consciousness are one and the same thing, that the universe is actually a structure of consciousness?
Surely that is a ridiculous proposition.
Okay, so tell me about the nature of consciousness.
Well, science says that consciousness is simply complex chemistry, a hallucination, which appears when matter reaches a certain level of complex evolution. Further, since Darwin and the discovery of the law of natural selection, the concept of God has also become redundant, an unnecessary concept of no value when describing the universe.
Go on.
Science does admit that the nature of consciousness is still a bit of a mystery. However, this is just a minor detail which will be tidied up shortly. The grand scheme of the universe has been solved. All that is required is a little housekeeping around the edges.
So if consciousness is simply complex matter, then it implies that matter creates consciousness. This then implies that frog poop creates the frog and donkey dung the donkey. Are these not absurd conclusions? Does this mean then that the original premise, that consciousness is simply complex matter, is in reality donkey dung?
You are being cheeky, irreverent. But it does seem strange that the lower level of creation, that of matter, creates the higher level of consciousness. Perhaps we do have the universe upside down.
Here is another way to look at our situation. We can imagine that the ego structure holds aloft the lamp of mind to explore the physical catacombs of the universe, only to discover that the physical universe is simply a quantum image floating in realms of nothingness. The ego is stranded now, isn't it? So where to from here? Is it not time to turn our attention to this ego structure, the I sense, which holds aloft the lamp of mind? For when science forgets the nature of consciousness, perhaps it completely misses 10,000 elephants within the cosmic room?
Okay, I can see your line of reasoning. But the nature of consciousness is difficult. It is much easier to study matter, to make a hypothesis and then to create measurable experiments to check the theory. This is what science does best.
I presume you know from history that knowledge does not travel in straight lines. The ancient Greeks knew more about astronomy than they did in Europe in the Middle Ages. Is it possible then that the ancient Buddhas, who have studied the lamp of mind and the structures of consciousness for thousands of years, knew more about the fundamental nature of our universe of matter consciousness than we do today, even though we have now begun to fill in the cosmic details of complex matter with knowledge derived from science's precise physical measurements?
Well, surely the mystics have nothing to offer us. They were just working with their subjective imaginations, patterns of belief, which were peculiar to a particular age. Their grand fairy stories of cosmic origin.
Perhaps, but do you know that the mystics' depiction of the universe proposes an exact figure for the value of dark matter and dark energy, a figure which arises from their knowledge of the dimensions of consciousness? Do you know that they also describe the input formula for the cosmos, which predicts the octet structure in the realms of matter, biology, consciousness and psyche? This is a nature that we have only recently begun to discover with the cataloging of the 64 codons of DNA and the discovery of the eightfold way of subparticle chromodynamics.
That is unbelievable, but yes, I must admit that this does remind me of something. The periodic table of elements also has a base, octet structure, with 7 families of elements repeating their properties. Every 8th element. Further, I also know that below the periodic table there does manifest the chromodynamic level of the subparticles. It is true that this level has been called the eightfold way by the Nobel laureate Gell-Mann because the subparticles arrange themselves into families with 8 members. 8 baryon particle waves form as an octet, 8 pions join as another and 8 vector mesons as a third.
An octet structure to our universe is also proposed by such great scientific minds as Kepler, Newlands, Mendeleev, Tesla and Ramanujan.
Yes, it is an eightfold concept which has been echoing throughout history.
The mystics have also proposed a theory of everything, a structure of 43 powers of awareness and consciousness which create both the appearance of the universe and the multiverse.
I have never heard of this. Are you sure?
Yes. So are you ready now to try a 10,000 Australian dollar universe challenge? A heavyweight philosophical prize fight between the greatest minds of Western science and the lineages of the mystics who stretch back for perhaps 5,000 years.
Sounds good. I could do with a quick $10,000.
Not so fast. The challenge is connected to what is probably the greatest riddle of our age, the riddle of matter and consciousness. This riddle states, if the background fields of our universe are space-time, gravity and primal matter, then how does a bucket of cosmic mud create and sustain a complex universe of consciousness? How did it create us?
Okay, go on.
Historically, in the Middle Ages, there were a group of scientists who pondered the nature of matter and consciousness. They had watched frogs crawling from the mud and, knowing nothing of the life cycle of tadpoles and frogs, they falsely assumed that mud turned into frogs as a spontaneous act of creation. However, we now know that this evolutionary process takes billions of years to turn mud into frogs through the elaborate journeys of increasing complexity. This, however, does not change the underlying premise that matter creates consciousness. In 500 years, since the Middle Ages, all we have changed is the time scale.
Yes, I understand this idea. If Granny bakes a cake in 1 second or 10 years, this does not change the underlying premise that Granny bakes the cake. The premise is still that mud creates frogs, that matter creates consciousness.
Yes, and now something which is surprising, perhaps even astonishing. The Universe Challenge, created by the presenter of this cartoon video, proposes that even after thousands of years of human endeavor, even after the contemplation of billions of human minds working upon the riddles of matter and consciousness, that we have collectively only been able to propose 2 fundamental creation models to explain the appearance of our universe. The solution then is right before us. It is either one model or the other, and perhaps our education only truly begins when we are offered the choice between these two creation models so that we can consciously decide how we are going to interact with the cosmos.
Only two creation models? This seems an outrageous claim. The libraries are filled with thousands of volumes of philosophy and science and religion. There must be as many creation models as there are leaves upon the trees.
Perhaps, but the Universe Challenge still proposes that there are only two fundamental creation models for the riddle of matter and consciousness. Blindfold yourself and throw a dart and you will get it right 50% of the time. Think about it a little and you will be right 100% of the time.
This sounds unbelievable. Even most game shows offer a choice of 4 answers to the questions they ask, and you are offering only 2 answers in a Universe Challenge. This should be like taking candy from a baby. The dude who created this $10,000 Universe Challenge must be a basket case?
Perhaps, but he will still give $10,000 to the first person who can name a plausible third creation model which is not simply a variation of one of the two models depicted within the Universe Challenge. The two models are the matter-based creation model of modern science and the consciousness-based model created by the mystics of India, China, Egypt and Greece thousands of years ago.
He must be rich or stupid.
Alternatively, he will also give the $10,000 to the first person who, through simple logic, can prove to the creator of the Universe Challenge that the matter creation model of modern science fits the facts for our universe better than the ancient consciousness model of the mystics.
This sounds crazy. The dude who has put up the Universe Challenge is betting against the greatest scientific minds of our age, guys with doctorates and Nobel Prizes, and he is putting his money on a few mystics from thousands of years ago, people who were probably dressed in rags. In a prize fight for the universe, he is betting his 10 grand on the mystics? What asylum has he got out of? Has he missed a drug dose or something?
Not so fast. First, you have to understand the two fundamental creation models, the two mother lodes of science, philosophy, religion and mysticism.
This still sounds pretty easy. Okay, tell me the challenge riddle again and then explain to me the two possible creation models. One of matter and one of consciousness.
In the challenge, the riddle of matter and consciousness asks, if the background fields of our universe are space-time gravity and primal matter, then how does a bucket of cosmic mud create and sustain a complex universe of consciousness? How did it create us?
Okay, and the two possible answers to the riddle are?
In the challenge, the two possible creation models are called the 4-block model of matter and the genie's bottle model of consciousness.
Okay. What is this 4-block creation model of matter?
In the 4-block matter creation model, the basis for our universe can be described using only 4 simple building blocks. The first block is the space-time gravitational vault and the second block is primal matter. We can shrink these 2 blocks down to a tiny point of nothingness and then explode them as the Big Bang. The third block is the underlying laws such as the tendency to complexity and natural selection. The fourth block is the appearance of consciousness, which arises as a hallucination created by complex chemistry.
Okay, I understand these concepts.
In this matter model, the background fields of the universe are space-time gravity and primal matter, including their associated realms of dark matter and dark energy. These dark realms appear like the term terra nullius, or unknown lands marked upon our ancient maps, because they are not made from the protons and neutrons of our physical universe. It is proposed that these dark expanses will comprise more than 95% of the total universe.
Okay, go on.
Further, it is important to understand in the challenge that in the matter creation model, the term space-time gravity is being used as a generic term to describe all the underlying components of the universe, which can be described as neither consciousness nor awareness.
This is starting to get tricky. Okay, tell me about the second creation model, the genie's bottle model of creation.
The genie's bottle consciousness model, created by the ancient mystics, proposes that within an eternal dimension of pure awareness there arises a vault or genie's bottle of consciousness which is woven from the three endlessly changing dimensions of consciousness, those of deep sleep, dream and waking, with the reflected light of the ego sense appearing within to create a cone or cosmic riddle. How can the reflected light of the ego find the sun, which lights all, yet cannot be seen?
Wow.
In this consciousness model, the three dimensions appear as octaves of one another, with each octave containing 7 internal steps, so that deep sleep dimension is 7 times as powerful as dream, and dream is 7 times as powerful as waking. Waking dimension and the physical universe will then comprise only 100/49 or 2.040816326.5% of the universe, with the remainder becoming the 97.959183673.5% of the universe known to science as dark matter and dark energy.
You were trying to tell me, in this creation model, that the universe is a structure of consciousness, that our physical universe is only a kind of waking dream, like reflections appearing upon a hidden ocean?
Yes. And that it is also possible to awaken from the clasp of this ego state existing within the 3 dimensions of consciousness. It is possible to merge again with the glass or diamond nature of the genie's bottle, which is eternal awareness itself. This is a state known as diamond mind or the awakening.
So in this creation model there are only 2 primal aspects to the universe. They are eternal awareness and the changing oceans of consciousness.
Yes. The matter of our waking dimension is simply the densest form of consciousness, and everything we perceive is simply reflections upon the mirrored or glass surface of the genie's bottle.
And according to the $10,000 universe challenge, these 2 creation models, one of matter and one of consciousness, are the only 2 structural possibilities for the source of our universe.
Yes. To collect the $10,000 prize, just be the first person to describe a plausible creation theory which is not simply a variation of one of the 2 creation models presented within the universe challenge. Or, through simple logic, prove to the creator of the challenge that the matter creation model fits the facts for our universe better than the consciousness model. The creator of the challenge is giving you 2 chances to claim the $10,000 prize.
I do not believe this. If this genie's bottle consciousness model is correct, then it solves the problem of dark matter, and it means that the incredible energy causing the expansion of the universe is arising from the octet nature of the 2 surrounding dimensions of dream and deep sleep. It means that this dude, with a pencil and a sheet of paper, and the Mickey Mouse formula 100 minus 100 divided by 39 has solved the greatest riddle of quantum physics, the nature and value for dark matter. Do you know that they have built an $8 billion particle accelerator under the Swiss Alps trying to understand these concepts? There are going to be some unhappy campers.
Yes. In the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the secret of the universe was 42. This surprisingly is not so far from the number 49, a number which arises from the product of the 7 times 7 steps within the primal octaves of the 3 dimensions of deep sleep, dream, and waking.
That is almost amusing.
This octet formula is simple, but it is based upon the creation model used by the ancient mystics when they described the process used by the creation powers of consciousness to manifest our universe. Again, this is why our universe has an 8-fold octave basis to the realms of consciousness, psyche, biology, and matter.
I am going to have to think about this challenge. I hope that there will not be a nervous breakdown coming on. Where can I find out more information about this challenge?
Go to the website www.aum-pi.com. You can read a book there called The Universe and the Psyche. But in the meantime, if you are interested, we can continue on through the knowledge the mystics have gathered over 5 millennia. I mean, it would be pointless if science was simply trying to rediscover the wheel, especially if it is doing so in a clumsy fashion.
Okay, I am listening. Tell me what the mystics have found. I am not, however, expecting to be impressed by their strange imaginings.
We heard before that the mystics had turned their attention away from the physical universe and focused upon the ego structure. upon the awareness of consciousness, the nature which holds the lamp of mind aloft, and through this self-reflection they discovered that our universe was the structure of both consciousness and awareness. Awareness is the eternal unchanging aspect of the universe, described as being, knowing and bliss, and consciousness is the nature of the endlessly changing three dimensions of deep sleep, dream and waking. These three dimensions create the realms of ego separation and the journeys of life and death, of existence and non-existence.
Go on.
Through these insights, the ancient mystics suggested that there are several great riddles of cosmic appearance. If we combine their perception with our modern knowledge, then we can propose that there are now four of these great riddles of cosmic perception. They are, firstly, the earth appears to be flat, the sun goes around the earth and the earth is the center of the universe. Secondly, matter appears to create consciousness, a riddle which is still perhaps the greatest experiential riddle of our age. Thirdly, the ego appears to be separate from the surrounding universe. Fourthly, the eternal appears to be simply the three dimensions of consciousness, those of deep sleep, dream, and waking. These last three riddles of perception are the basis of the creation model from India.
The first two of these riddles I can intellectually grasp. The last two riddles, however, are still bewildering to me.
The ancient Chinese mystics described this consciousness model using their pictograms of the Tao, Ba, Gui, and the I Ching. When the primal duality of the universe, the yin-yang of the Tao, is woven to the three primal creation powers, it creates the 8 trigrams of the Bagua, the seed octet formula for the universe. This Bagua is also the source for the mathematical Fibonacci series and the phi ratio, 2 of the great building blocks for our universe.
This is astonishing if true. However, I doubt your interpretation of these symbols.
In the 17th century, the German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz, co-founder of calculus with Isaac Newton, was inspired by the binary structure of the Bagua and its further flowering into the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching to create the mathematical basis for computer science, 5,000 years after the I Ching was created.
Okay, that is impressive.
This I Ching structure mirrors the 64 codons of DNA. Both of these templates are based upon polarity, the I Ching upon the polar aspects of yin-yang, DNA upon the plus and minus threads of the double helix. The 2 three-line hexagrams of the I Ching also have the same tripart structure as the DNA codons. In this way, the I Ching suggests the structure for the quantum mind and the DNA codons the templates for physical form.
You were telling me that the I Ching, which is at least 5,000 years old, is a mirror for the modern template for DNA. Surely this is some kind of coincidence? A random act of chance?
Amazingly, the symbol the Chinese use for the I Ching is a photographic replica of the DNA spiral when viewed under an electron microscope.
This is getting a little spooky. My mind still wants to cling to the idea that this is simply some kind of cosmic coincidence.
The ancient Greeks depicted the Bagua as the pi symbol, but we are using the term pi as they did, as the law of 3 and 7 or the law of octaves. In the law of octaves, 3 primal powers move from an initial point of creation through 7 further steps to create an octave of creation. This octave in turn becomes the first step in the next octave, and the chains of creation begin to weave the universe. In Egypt, pi was described as the flower of life, and as something we can now call the Thoth code, named after Thoth, their god of wisdom, with 3 overlapping octaves becoming a tripart codon or cosmic key.
You mean to tell me that China, Egypt, India and Greece were all tracking these cosmic concepts? This is hard to believe.
The important thing to understand from the symbols of pi, the flower of life, and the Bagua is that our universe is woven from octet threads, which form the complex levels of matter and consciousness.
Would this explain the maximum of 8 electrons in the outer or valence shell of an atom?
Yes. And there is much more. With this input formula for the cosmic fractal, which the ancients called the law of 3 and 7, you now have the key to the creation process of pi, the phi ratio and the Fibonacci series. It also explains the Fibonacci structures for our solar system and the octet structures for our psyches, with our centers of consciousness forming as an ascending thread upon our spinal columns.
This is starting to feel like some kind of cosmic unified field theory which is linking the realms of the large-scale nature of the universe with the small-scale nature of the subparticles. Not to mention the realms of the perceiving consciousness.
In ancient Egypt they described the physical process of creation. Pi, the law of 3 and 7, initially forms as the image of the flower of life. This is, turn creates the image for the fruit of life. From the fruit of life arose Metatron's cube. From the cube arose the 5 platonic solids. These in turn become the basis for our universe, such as the myriad aspects of molecular geometry, cellular life and the essence of evolution.
So we could call pi or the big with the input formula for our entire universe.
Yes, from simple seeds do great universes grow.
I am starting to feel impressed. I am surprising myself.
If you like, we can now talk about the human psyche which appears within the dimensions of consciousness. This psyche is perhaps best depicted within the ancient teachings of Indian mysticism. In India, the body psyche is depicted as a magic tapestry of consciousness woven from 7 psychic centers which form vibrational octaves to create the journeys of personal psyche. These journeys appear because the human body is like a miniature genie's bottle which we enter within our mother's womb. We enter this bottle through the fontanelle. The opening at the crown of the head is a plume of pure consciousness before we descend the spine until we reach wisdom heart, where we dwell awaiting our birth. At birth we find ourselves cast in a great arc of psychic destiny, falling through the front of the heart in a descent to the feet, where we draw upon ourselves a shroud of forgetfulness, the dreaming nature of the personal self.
This sounds like some kind of genie's bottle within a genie's bottle trick of cosmic perception. Is the universe playing games with us with veils of ignorance?
Yes, perhaps, but we can understand that our active identity with the personal self creates an individual journey, the ascent through the psychic centers suspended upon the spine until we eventually return to our remembrance at wisdom heart. In this way there is a chronology written upon the body so that during early childhood, we psychically dwell at the feet, ankles and calves. By the age of 6 we have psychically reached the knees. By 10 or 12 we have reached the pelvis and puberty. We must then ascend through the adult aspects of feeling upon the lower abdomen, mind at the belly and ego structure at the liver to return to wisdom heart. It may seem peculiar to place the center of mind at the belly, but this is the source of the subtle mind impressions which eventually become our stream of thought. This is why stopping the breath stops the thought processes too.
Yes, I have heard of this psychic journey to awakening. It relates to the meditation classes which I used to take years ago.
If we understand this psychic panorama within the body, we can see that when we dwell beneath wisdom heart we will experience ourselves as a personal self existing within the fields of pleasure and pain, of life and death. But when we dwell at wisdom heart we will experience ourselves as pure spirit, the state of I am, a witnessing self no longer trapped in identity with the changing fields of consciousness, a self free from the tenacious clasp of the 5 primal chains of consciousness. The chains are forgetfulness, the loss into sexual polarity, the entrapment at the woundings of childhood and sex and pride, the identity with personal mind and the dwelling beneath the ego structure at the liver.
So this is the journey of meditation, the realm of skillful means and insight, which the great lineages of mystics have been using and teaching for thousands of years.
Yes. It is this union of the separate aspects of mind which creates the possibility for a revolution in consciousness, a state the mystics call diamond mind. Diamond mind arises when the center of our attention moves from the endlessly changing oceans of consciousness to unite with the glass or diamond of a genie's bottle of consciousness. Diamond mind becomes possible when the vertical column of the psyche is cleared of all psychic impediments, when the mind has stilled so that it becomes a metaphysical conductor, producing no resistance to the powerful flows of the cosmic mind.
This is interesting, but it is all way beyond me. I thought Western Science was complicated, but these are concepts which I can barely grasp. I told you matter was simple and consciousness was difficult. This is probably why the scientists run from consciousness, dismissing it simply as a hallucination of complex matter.
We are just beginning. We have been talking about the human mind, which has appeared like a flower within the three dimensions of consciousness. However, surrounding our planet there also exists the planetary flower of our solar system, which also has an octet structure. As you probably know, it has been an ancient premise, well before the harmony of the spheres of Pythagoras, that the human psyche and musical vibrations and the planetary orbits of our solar system are cosmic mirrors for one another, with both the human psyche and the solar system arising as structures of consciousness.
I have heard of this. Our whole universe has been described as an endlessly repeating fractal or holographic image which is manifesting through all the levels of creation. In this way we can study a single leaf and deduce the structure of the tree from which it arose and the number of similar trees which will naturally surround it.
Yes. When we study the solar system we can encounter the work of such scientists as the Russian astronomer Molchanov, who said that our solar system is a quantum tune resonant structure with Jupiter as the conductor of the celestial symphonies. Or we can see the hidden splendor revealed within the amazing planetary orbits described by the author John Martineau.
Perhaps we are dwelling like spiders within a vast and precise cosmic web of identity, and yes, deception.
Maybe, for when science has measured the planetary orbits of our solar system, it has discovered that there are two groups of planets arranged in Fibonacci patterns. The inner circle of the 4 planets closest to the Sun form as one pattern, the outer 5 planets form as another pattern.
We are back to the octet structure for the Chinese Bagua again. Aren't we? And Pi. And the flower of life from Egypt. And Om from India.
Yes. The ancient Greek Pythagoras believed in the harmony of the spheres and that the solar system was a musical structure, a concept which has inspired musicians for millennia. Now the unit of measurement we use for the speed of light is the meter, so is it a coincidence that the Earth is 150 million kilometers from the Sun? The sound tone of Middle C in Western music is 256 Hz, and that the vibration of the human mind upon the spinal column is proposed to be about 200 Hz? Are there connections then between the speed of light, musical vibrations, planetary orbits and the human psyche? Was Pythagoras right? Is the solar system a large-scale power turbine of matter consciousness?
I am starting to feel like I am sharing a hookah pipe with a character from Alice in Wonderland.
Now who is being irreverent and cheeky? But this is not the end. We can now explore the mystics' theory of everything, or the mind of God, if you are still interested.
Okay, take me by the hand. Lead me further into the rabbit hole of the universe.
Firstly, we can suggest, perhaps with a little tongue-in-cheek, that the scientist's theory of everything model has only 2 powers upon it. They are space-time gravity and primal matter. In this model, consciousness simply appears as a hallucination created by complex chemistry, and so it is simply an aspect of primal matter. Through exploring these 2 properties of the universe, the scientists expect to be able to describe the entire creation nature of the universe.
This is a harsh way of looking at the complex journeys of science. However, I can see your point. Continue.
The mystics say, however, that to describe the creation powers of the universe we need a panorama of 43 powers of eternal awareness and consciousness. Further, they say it is not possible to grasp the panorama of these powers simply by studying the 2 powers of space-time gravity and primal matter. A whole new approach to the universe is required. An approach of consciousness and awareness.
43 powers. I had no idea that the mystics had such a sophisticated model of creation. However, I know that science and the mystics in some ways are in agreement. The scientists say that the universe arises from a space smaller than an atom, and that a single strand of each living human's DNA would fit inside a walnut shell. I have also read that the Indian mystics say that the entire universe arises within a space smaller than a mustard seed.
Yes, The mystics and scientists both suggest that the appearance of the universe is simply a quantum image hung upon a nothingness. The mystics, however, go on to say that this quantum image is being projected from the hidden dimension of deep sleep consciousness. This is where the mystics and scientists diverge. If the mystics are correct, then our modern cosmic physicists are presently as deluded as an innocent child who stands for the first time before a movie screen and believes that the stream of images appearing upon the screen are creating themselves from within their own nature.
That indeed would be an embarrassing state of cosmic awareness.
So let us look at the mystics' theory of everything model. The 43 powers described are based upon the creation powers of the ancient tattvas of the philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism. From India, this mystics' model of the theory of everything requires 12 powers of the eternal, 31 powers of consciousness, the law of 3 and 7, the 4 primary riddles of appearance and the 5 chains of consciousness to create a play of identity within a vast cosmic theater of eternal awareness.
You paint quite a cosmic picture there using only a few brush strokes.
In this creation model, the dimension of deep sleep contains 15 powers. They are the seed duality and the primal trinity, ego sense, the 2 powers which form the projecting film and the impressions upon it, the 5 powers which form the reflecting screen, the power of universal mind which is the self-knowing aspect of the universe, and finally, the space-time gravitational vault of ether.
So this is like the dark vault of a movie theater containing the projection equipment and film stock so that we can experience a cosmic movie.
Yes. Further, below deep sleep dimension there lies the 2 dimensions of dream and waking, woven from a further 16 powers of consciousness. They are firstly creation, mind which takes the subtle impressions and creates a universal reality, and secondly personal mind which identifies with a particular stream of thought feeling and says this is myself. There are also the 5 powers of action, breathing, sexuality, voicing, digestion and movement. There are also the 5 powers of sense, touching, tasting, seeing, hearing and smelling. And, finally, the last 4 of the 5 powers of manifestation, which are collectively described as ether, air, fire, water and earth.
I can see that the play of these powers of consciousness would create our experiences within the waking and dream dimensions.
Yes. In this creation model, the primal trinity garbs the individual self in 5 etheric robes. They are the robe of deep sleep, the 2 robes of universal and creation minds, and the 2 outer robes of the physical body and the personal life force, robes which send the individual self out upon its journey of destiny.
This is what the Indian mystics say, that our universe is a cosmic play of consciousness with the eternal robing itself with the physical body of the mortal to go upon an adventure. It is a play of identity between the mortal and the divine.
These 3 dimensions and 31 powers can be described as a genie's bottle of consciousness, but when the powers are absorbed in union they simply form as a pure mirror, a mirror reflecting the light of a 4th dimension, the eternal. In this state of balance the eternal is simply aware of the eternal, and all the dreams of consciousness have evaporated like mists before the morning sun.
This is the fabled light of a billion suns experienced by the mystics. The state of being, knowing and bliss.
Yes. This eternal nature in turn is woven from a further 12 powers for each eternal sun with its intrinsic 3 dimensions of consciousness is simply a single droplet in a vast ocean of illusion woven from 5 eternal powers, and beyond lies a 6th, the primordial seed of illusion itself, a seed which is known on the Himalayan plateau as the goddess Maya.
Thousands of stories have been written about the nature of Maya, and yet still she remains an enigma. We are talking here of the multiverse, aren't we? With each droplet of the ocean of illusion being an individual universe woven from Pi and Gua.
Yes, and above these powers dwell 5 blue powers, those of pure being, bliss, knowing, power, and unlimited form, the highest expressions of all the powers of the eternal. This blue dimension eventually fades to become a tiny blue pearl before disappearing into an endless ocean of darkness, the ocean of the unmanifest, the unknowable, which is the last step in all the realms of creation and manifestation.
These are Astonishing concepts to consider.
We have now, before us, an extraordinary panorama of consciousness and the eternal, and if we grasp this vision we can understand why the genie's bottle model theory of everything has 43 powers in its sacred formula, a formula based upon the creation powers or tattvas of the philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism. These powers have Sanskrit names, so if we take their initial letters, plus the letters from some English terms, we can then create the fabled theory of everything, formula which can be printed onto a t-shirt.
You have enchanted me. These journeys down the cosmic rabbit hole are fun.
This mystic's formula appears at first to be incomprehensible to the Western scientific mind, but its essence has stood the test of 5 passing millennia, and it has been verified by some of the greatest mystical minds which our planet has produced. Perhaps these mystics too would suggest to the perplexed scientific mind that the primary error of the matter creation model is that it is impossible to deduce the totality of consciousness in the eternal simply by studying primal matter in the etheric vault of space-time gravity.
These mystic revelations make the work of modern science seem to be of only minor significance within the great panorama of the universe. The great scientist Newton said of his work, "To myself I am only a child playing on the beach, while vast oceans of truth lie undiscovered before me."
Yes, the great minds have a humble quality. The ego mind, however, can find itself staring at such a theory of everything formula with a mixture of rage and despair because it reduces the ego's perception of itself down to a pill of rooster feathers in a forgotten corner of the universe. But what if the eternal has simply robed itself within the personal form so that it can go on an adventure within consciousness, so that it can explore the myriad aspects of itself? To do so it must enshroud itself within the dreams of forgetfulness, using perhaps the greatest magic of all, the power which creates the perception that the ego structure is separate from the surrounding universe. Perhaps the eternal and the ego are simply 2 faces of the one power.
It is the play of identity again. Are we really only existing as dreams and waking dreams? This does, however, suggest that the universe is an underlying core of compassion for whatever happens within consciousness, within the realms of life and death, of ego and becoming, can never injure the eternal dimension of pure awareness. Perhaps then this is the source of the mystics, saying that the mark of a wise man is that he remains the same, both in victory and in defeat.
Yes, this makes sense.
Wow, we have been wandering the universe with our minds. Let's try with our feet. Do you feel like going for a walk?
Yes, let's go.